We got a special show for you today. We got our special Halloween episode of Screenshots. We're going to talk about all the classic horror movies, and we're going to tell you whether or not a contemporary horror movie, 30 Days of Night, is worth your time. Stick around. Welcome to the Halloween episode of Screenshots. I'm here today, as always, with Ben Barker.
Joey.
And Travis Barassa.
How are you doing today?
And we're just going to jump right into the show right now. Our first topic, what movie gave you the most genuine scare of your life? Travis?
Well, I'm going to have to say when I was about 8 years old. I don't know if I actually saw the movie, but I saw the commercials, and that was it. Stephen King book, TV movie that had Tim Curry as a scary clown. And from third grade on, I don't like clowns. Yep. Can't stand them.
Clowns are scary. I know someone else that's deathly afraid of clowns as well.
Because they paint the white stuff on their face, so their teeth are always yellow and nasty looking, so it looks like they're going to bite into you and give you an infection.
That's true. Actually, I think there's a name for that, isn't there, for clown phobia? I don't know what the actual name is, but...
Clownophobia?
Yeah, something like clownophobia. I think that's what it is. Yeah.
I don't know what the term is.
I don't think there's a Latin name for clown.
Don't patronize me. I think we're all scared of It as kids. Stephen King's It. I remember watching that late one night at midnight when everyone else in the house was asleep and just being scared out of my wits about it. Just curled up in a ball because it was so scary. And then I watched it about 2 years ago with some friends and laughed. We kind of laughed at it a little bit.
I don't remember much about that movie, but I remember there was a scene where something to do with some giant shower, and all of a sudden he appears there or something. Like, isn't that in the movie?
I believe he comes out of the drain.
Yeah, it comes out of the drain.
Yeah, the balloon comes out and
it
explodes with blood.
Yeah.
Yep,
Climbs out, I believe.
Yeah, I remember that scared me.
Creepy stuff. Stephen King is kind of... I think it's fitting that he's one of the first people that we mention in a Halloween episode. Probably the king of the horror movies.
Yeah. And an alumni of UMaine, too.
That's right, an alumni.
I don't know if he gets this show, though. I don't know if he's going to see it.
I don't know if he is.
Wow.
We'll have to send him the YouTube link.
We will.
I have his AIM screen name.
Is that right?
Yep, I'll send him the link.
One of my scariest... Well, when I was little, when Jurassic Park first came out, that was a horrific movie for me. I remember leaving the theater because I was so scared. I was sick to my stomach, and I just hadn't seen anything like that. But now, I mean, obviously not. But probably in recent years, the best genuine scare I've gotten from a movie would be from What Lies Beneath with Harrison Ford and Michelle Pfeiffer. That was... I don't even know if you consider that to be a horror film. I guess I probably would. Horror suspense, but that wasn't one of those slasher movies or, intended to... Someone's going to shoot you, someone's going to knife you in the back or something like that.
Just genuinely suspenseful.
Yeah, it was just creepy. It just had a creepy idea behind it and thinking that, your significant other is just this, murderer or, someone's going to jump out of the bathtub at you. I don't know. That was a good one. I just love that movie.
I agree. There's a particular scene that when I watched that, when Michelle Pfeiffer is, I think, going into the bathroom and it's all steam and you can't really see what's going on and you don't know what's going to happen, that was just... a really good quintessential scene for that movie because it was very suspenseful. It was drawn out just enough that you had no idea what was going on and your heart's really, really pounding. I think that's a good pick. The movie that really scared me as a kid more than anything else was The Shining. I saw The Shining, coming back to Stephen King, I saw The Shining on TV when I was 10 years old, and Jack Nicholson scared the pants off me. I thought he was creepy. He scared the pants right off of me, which is an odd phenomenon, but happens.
I've actually never heard of that happening.
No,
before.
you've never seen the.
It is Jack Nicholson though, so I'll trust it.
Yeah, Jack Nicholson has many different ways of getting the pants off somebody. Scaring them is like number one.
He still woos the ladies. That's
he does.
He still does.
He does.
He's just a dirty old man now.
He is, which is probably even pretty scary. Yeah. That Jack Nicholson gets more ladies than me. That's what scares me. in recent years, there have been a lot of horror movies coming out, especially with one movie in particular is kind of, I don't know if you want to say blamed or given the credit for the resurgence of horror movies is Saw. Saw was kind of a huge success, kind of out of nowhere, and there's been, the 4th Saw movie is coming out pretty soon, and with that comes
In 4 years.
Hostel. 4 movies in 4 years. That's
Hostel's one. I got 2 movies.
I know Hostel's only on 2.
Jeez.
So what do you guys think about the kind of new generation of horror movies?
I like the first Saw movie. I thought it was very suspenseful, and it surprised me in the end. I don't know, Ben's cracking up about something.
He's just trying to hide his fear.
Okay.
It's going without me.
But I saw the second Saw movie, and it was gory, and I can't imagine what they said in the 3rd one, or what they're going to say in the 4th. I don't really know what they need 2 more Saw movies for.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like needless gore, and I haven't seen Hostel, nor do I particularly plan to. It sounds like it's just taken the label of torture porn that
I don't know what he's laughing at. I really have no idea.
I don't either, but I think it's funny.
I think it's hilarious.
What do you think about the new
horror
generation of horror movies?
I don't like them, actually. I'll admit Saw was a good original film, the first one anyway. I haven't seen any of the sequels, but now that I see a 4th rendition of that, or fourth movie within the Saw franchise, I'm not in any way excited to see that, and I think it's just going to be a total letdown. I'd be willing to see the 2nd and 3rd ones, but aside from the first Saw movie, I hadn't seen a good horror film in a long time.
You can't imagine that a movie made at that breakneck speed.
It's quick and cheap filmmaking is what I see it as, because they know it's going to make a lot of money. They don't have to give it much time for the screenplay. They can reuse sets, they can reuse whatever they want, and just pump the movies right out. It's just like, just like having as I was saying, it was just like having a machine just to crank out the movies.
I think one thing that people, and this is not so much about horror movies as much as movies in general, people are mistaking good twists as good writing. And I think the first Saw movie was interesting and original, but the second 2, probably this one, and these are just good examples of this, but we're seeing it more and more in movies, is a bad movie gets a twist ending and people are like, wow, that was really well written. It wasn't really. They just changed something and did something you wouldn't expect.
They just say, they just throw you for a loop, and you're so surprised that you think that you just saw something that you really enjoyed when really it was just like every other movie that you've seen.
I'm going to have to ask our cameraman to just get rid of the line if that's going to continue. What are you going to... Okay, thank you. We're seeing people get tired of remakes in general. I think the horror genre has been as bad an offender as that as anyone when you see movies. House of Wax and just every horror movie that's coming out, Halloween, are mostly remakes.
I think Halloween's a really good example of that, because for the first probably 2 quarters of that, or probably the first half of that movie, it was a lot of new information that they're giving us. You're learning more about the character from a young age that the old movies didn't really give you, but once it got to a certain point, he's an adult, and it's really just like a 45-minute replay of the first movie, just with a lot of gore, a lot of fast-paced killing and shock sequences, and it was pretty much from that point on, I just got really bored, because I already knew what was going to happen. And then in the end, it was very abrupt. I'm not going to give it away because I'm sure people want to see it, but it didn't really impress me. They don't want to see it.
And you know, with that film, they said that Rob Zombie directing this one, that this was going to be an all-new, totally original type of horror film, and it wasn't at all.
No.
I mean, I'm just like, I don't want to see that. And this looks exactly like the other ones. I mean, there's nothing original about it, and I don't know why they'd even venture to say that.
Other than it has his wife in it, who's not a very good actress, and she's kind of a slut. I don't know.
Wow.
That's just my opinion.
Harsh words for Rob. Rob Zombie's going to come
He's
to your
watching
house.
this. What's he going to do about it? I'm on TV, and he's not.
If Rob Zombie is watching this, I want to know what Rob Zombie is doing watching the main channel. That's what I want to know. As long as Ben is back with us, let's ask Ben what he's doing this weekend.
It's funny you should ask. This is a good Halloween special now.
Is this funny as whatever you were laughing at?
No. now I hope this doesn't get out because this is a surprise I'm giving to someone, but I'm going to see a show down in Rockland this weekend at a small theater down there, a production or a showing of Nosferatu, which is a 1922 horror film based on the original Dracula story by Bram Stoker. And this is a theater showing with a live performance, musical performance by the Devil Music Ensemble. And what this group is a group that goes around and makes live performance soundtrack, so to speak, for silent films. And this is one of their better ones. So I'm really anxious to see this. This is going to be a good Halloween weekend feature for me. And I've never seen Nosferatu. I've been wanting to see it for a long time. So I'm really excited to see that.
That sounds really fun.
Awesome.
That sounds like a great thing.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go to a commercial break, and we're going to be right back. We're going to tell you all about 30 Days of Night, the new vampire movie. So stick around, or else. For more information on horror movies, we're going to go to our trivia guy.
You to me are sweet as rose.
Hey movie fans, I'm Travis Barassi, your tour guide to obscurity of movie fandom. In honor of All Hallows Eve, I've got some facts about your favorite zombie movie, Dawn of the Dead from 1978. For starters, most of the movie was filmed in the Monroeville Mall in Pennsylvania, and the mall is still standing, but if you plan to visit, don't get your hopes up, because in the past 29 years, a lot's changed, so you probably won't recognize any of the locations. Do you remember the scene where the characters stock up on weapons before they mow down the undead? Well, there really was no gun store in the mall, which kind of makes sense, because you can't really imagine buying a bunch of guns and then going to B. Dalton in the Gap. But those little kid zombies, they were actually the niece and nephew of the director, George Romero. And a lot of the zombies that were missing arm and legs in the movie, the actors were actually amputees. And if you were lucky enough to be one of those zombies, not only did you get your ghoulish image on the silver screen, but you got 20 bucks, a lunch, and a Dawn of the Dead t-shirt. And the MPAA, those bastards, they wanted to give the movie an X rating, but back in the 70s, really only pornos got rated X. So Romero talked to the distributors and sending the movie out with no rating at all, so screw them. Finally, there may have been an alternative ending filmed, and instead of escaping in the helicopter, the main characters were supposed to kill themselves when the zombies overwhelmed them. And that's the end of whatever I have to say.
Thanks, trivia guy. Tonight, we're going to talk about David Slade's 30 Days of Night, based on the graphic novel, the Dark Horse graphic novel. So, what did you guys think of the movie?
I give it a thumb sideways to begin. It did not blow me away like I expected from the trailer, and I also didn't walk away hating it, but I wasn't smiling. Ben?
Excuse me. I thought that this was an opportunity to get away from, you know, the traditional vampires we've seen. Everything was really basic in this film, I noticed, where typically when you have vampire films, you've got real superhuman powers and they're, you know, completely stylized and stuff like that. And I think they could have taken that somewhere with this, but they just didn't. It just was the whole way through the movie. I mean, you start out and you're in Alaska and the vampires come in and then they're there for the whole film and then they're just gone. And we don't know anything about the vampires, we don't know anything about the characters in the movie either, except for this little relationship, but there's hardly anything to do with that. And I mean, at least the vampires, you should give a little background, a little history on them, because they're different from the typical vampires you'd see, well, sort of different anyway.
But we're just supposed to assume that they're there for a reason. We don't know exactly why they're there.
And it was like, well, if you're gonna do this, you gotta create something, you know, be a little creative instead of just having people walking around like zombies chewing on necks. And
the whole time I was watching it, I felt like if I had read the graphic novel, I'd be having a much better time, because from what I hear, it gives you a lot more backstory and actually gives you some information about what's going on, all that stuff that the movie just left out.
That was my understanding as well, yeah.
But I thought the vampire effects for the most part were pretty great. I like that they rip out throats rather than just fight them and suck the blood.
Yeah.
They were pretty gory. They had blood smeared all over their jaws all the time. That was pretty impressive.
A friend of mine that I watched the movie with turned to me at a fairly intense scene where a vampire walks in and just has blood all along his face, and it looks very creepy, and he just leans over to me and he says, "He has blood o'clock shadow." And I couldn't help laughing at that because it really did look like a blood beard.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah. Yep. So I mean it was a really gory movie, and I agree with what you said about the effects. I thought most of the effects were fairly subtle, and they just they tweaked the appearance, and the eyes kind of tended to change a little bit. I thought the effects on the eyes of the vampires and the people who were like becoming vampires, I thought those were pretty well done. And that, and the other real highlight for me was just that it was just kind of a badass vampire flick. The vampires were big and strong, and well, not necessarily big, but they were strong, they were powerful, and we're going to call it the twist at the end, in an attempt to not give away the climax. But I mean, there was a scene where the score kicks in towards the climax that that same friend of mine that was watching it just almost stood up out of his chair and went, "Yeah!"
There's a scene where Josh Hartnett's about to fight the vampires, and he puts up his hood, and then the music kicks in, and he just starts marching towards the vampires, and that's when you know badassery is about to occur.
That's right. But it was that moment was kind of ruined for me by the camera work and the shaky cam.
Yeah, that was something that was used a lot. Way too often was the close-up shaky cam with the fast editing, so you're really confused and you don't know what's going on. Yeah. The first time it's used really effectively, and using it once I think is fair.
Yep, I think when you do it in the beginning and you're not sure what's going on yet, and you're not sure about what the vampires are now, what's going to happen next, and the shaky cam and the quick cuts keep you confused and kind of make you think what's going on. In that sense, it's used really effectively.
But then afterwards, once you know what the vampires look like, you know what they're doing, it's like, just show them to us. Show us the action. We want to see that. And that's what we've been waiting for between all the boring crap.
And speaking of effects too, a couple of good and bad things about that is, I thought that one good thing is that the colors that they used in the film, obviously is really snowy in the film throughout the whole thing. So you're going to have kind of a cold feel, but they used a lot of grays and soft grays and greens, which really kind of gave you a cold, chill, sort of claustrophobic feel.
I thought that was all. It reminded me of like 300, which I really hope is a trend that we're not leaning towards.
So
I don't want every movie to have like the dull reds and gray and green colors.
I agree. Yep. I think the color scheme though is a really easy, effective way to set a tone, and I'm thinking of movies like Payback, Mel Gibson, and Traffic mess with colors a lot, and I think that's a really easy but effective way to set the tone for a movie, and I'm surprised more of it isn't seen.
But you know what I mean by like the 300 style, where it's just, I just really hope we don't see 100 more movies that look like that. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of, they're both based on comic books, so I guess we can kind of assume maybe it's just going to stay there, but still.
Yeah,
not see that again.
Another thing about effects too is, I'm assuming this is probably a fairly low budget film. I could be wrong, but I noticed, and I can't specify which scenes this happened in because they happened so fast, but there was definitely some CGI in there that was really obvious, like just people walking out of a building into a snowstorm, and not only do the characters look animated, but it's obviously a fake storm. I mean, it's probably like 90 degrees in the studio that they're filming this in, and it just looks really fake, and I thought that was an easy thing they could have surpassed. That was poorly done.
Going back to the shaky cam and the quick cuts, during the climax, I don't know if anyone else experienced this, but during the climax, the shaky cam and the quick cuts are used a lot. And at a certain point, I said, watching this, I said, well, I can't even see what's going on here. I don't even care anymore. And I found myself waiting for the end of the scene so that I could see what was going on. And I think that's terrible.
Yeah.
That's the last thing in the world that you want. And it's really a shame because when the filmmakers weren't cutting up the scenes into 1,000 pieces, when they kind of let the film breathe, there was some really interesting cinematography. And the one scene that I'm thinking of in particular was a long overhead shot of the villagers kind of fighting back. I call them villagers. The citizens of the town kind of fighting back. And it's just a real long, I don't even know what it was.
Slow pan from above, like a bird's eye view.
It's probably a helicopter shot, but yeah, it was just a really neat shot that I really liked.
It reminded me a lot of the remake of Dawn of the Dead. There's a really similar shot of that where they're painting over the town and you just see like the riots occurring, and it's a really good way to portray like a sense of chaos. And that there's no order, no one really knows what to do when everyone's afraid. I thought that's all right. So what's your rating out of 10, guys?
Me, I'd give it a 2.
Two, really?
2.
Yeah.
Wow. I'd give it at least a 5. I'd say
5?
It's right in the middle there. Yeah. I'd watch it again if my friends rented it, but
yeah, I think it was a fun movie to go to, especially with some friends. I gave it a 6. I think a lot of the stuff that annoyed me, like the shaky cam and the score, was kind of evened out by just the badassery of the story and of the vampires. And I want to mention, I mentioned Ben Foster, Danny Houston, who plays kind of the lead vampire, really creepy, really good. So I would give it a 6.
Right.
6 out of 10.
I forgot we were going out of 10, 1 to 10. So I guess that would be a 4 for me.
4? Okay. Okay, so we're going 4, 5, 6. So it was right in the middle there. It was in the middle there. So if you're looking to see a good vampire flick, maybe not this one, but if you like gore, maybe it is this one. So we're going to be right back, and we're going to give you our rental picks, and we're going to give you the first ever screenshots preview of an upcoming scary movie that you might like. Stick around.
Nothing happened the way it was supposed to happen. Day 1001. My name is Robert Neville. I am a survivor living in New York City. I am broadcasting on all AM frequencies. If you are out there, if anyone is out there, please.
Welcome back to Screenshots, and I look ridiculous. All right, we're going to give you our rental picks, and I think the most appropriate topic would just be, what is your favorite scary movie?
I'm going to have to say A Nightmare on Elm Street, the very first one. I saw that when I was about 5 years old. scared the crap out of me. And watching it now, I still go back and it still scares the crap out of me. So it's still my favorite. Freddy Krueger, the claws, still gets me every time.
Yeah.
And I'm wearing a sweater in honor of him.
Oh, very nice. My favorite would probably be The Shining. I haven't seen that in a long time. Not The Shining, excuse me, Salem's Lot. Haven't seen that in a long time, but I remember that was it's pretty cheesy, and it takes a while for the story to get off the ground, but it was a good classic vampire Stephen King horror film. I like that one.
Stephen King rears his scary head again on their Halloween episode. I'm going to go old school on you. I'm going to go the 1931 Frankenstein. Boris Karloff as Frankenstein is just classic, and I mean it was like one of my favorite movies, not even horror movies, one of my favorite movies as a kid, and I just think it's a really great movie, and I think that's a classic horror movie that, I mean, obviously relies on no gore. It's just kind of a really interesting story and a movie that I would recommend to anybody, especially people who are really interested in film. And that's going to do it for our Halloween episode of Screenshots. Until next time, clowns can be funny, but there's nothing funny about a clown at midnight.